Well, hi, everybody. This is Pat Mesiti. A little bit later than normal, but when you're trying to juggle a whole bunch of players, we got to accommodate everyone. Today's a very special broadcast because, you know, Diane Andrews, that tyrant, the despot, the dictator, the comrade, the control freak, and they're the nice things I can say about him. It's time that his reign of terror comes to an end. This guy who oversaw $200 billion of debt in his state, this guy who basically under his watch, he holds the gold record, #1 spot, two things. Number one, longest lockdown on the planet. Number two, and I'm going to say this, not my presenters, who's holding this man accountable for the 800 people that lost their lives under his botched up quarantine, jobs for my mate stuff? Oh, that's right. Dan can't remember. He suffered amnesia. All of a sudden, the man that's supposed to be over finances and supposed to be over estate can't remember anything. Now, that was before he supposedly fell down the stairs. A story I personally don't believe. For me, I kind of think, must have been some massive stairs. I mean, how many staircases were there? But I'll leave that alone. But his reign of terror, corruption, is no longer about the left side of politics and the right side of politics. It's about good and evil. It's about corruption and about honesty. And for those of you out there that say, hey, you know, Pat, you're making this personal, it's because I am. This man has wreaked so much havoc, not only in his state, but across the nation. We all felt the pain, the terror of this man. And I believe that this man needs to be removed from power. You know, rumour has it, and I'm going to speak to our guest today about it, that they're grooming him for Canberra. A man who's made some pretty amazing predictions that I know, very spiritual man at that, says they're grooming this guy for Canberra. Well, if they are, God help us all. And you know, for evil to prosper, all good men have to do is stay silent. In a moment, I'm going to present you three good men. Ian Cook, an amazing businessman who is standing as a real independent, whose business, of course, was affected during the, well, you know the one. And then, of course, Adam McClendon, guy who's seasoned in politics, and a personal friend of mine, Michael Piastrina. But before I do that, let me run the tape, let me run the video and give you a few highlights of what happened in Victoria, the most livable city in the world, apparently. Now, you're struggling to find cafes open, you're struggling to find businesses flourishing, all because of a man who got power hungry and still wants more power. Let's run the tape, guys.
If everyone follows these rules, and they are as simple as they can be, then we will get through this together and we will get to the other side of it quicker. Melbourne is city to have endured the world's longest lockdown.
Okay, they're shooting. They're now shooting.
It's painful, but it is absolutely appropriate.
Yeah, we're just at the intersection of Victoria and Lygon Streets, where an enormous amount of police are now gathering.
It's the most important commitment for Victoria Police, forcing the Chief Health Officer guidelines.
Hey! What the fuck?
Hopefully flatten that curve.
Well, Victoria Police will take whatever steps they need to take. Protests don't work, protests are not smart, they're not lawful.
Have an ultrasound in an hour.
Is anything in relation to the Facebook post?
You know what?
It's illegal. All of it can be avoided if people don't protest.
She doesn't want the vaccine, and look what they've done to it. She was a hero last year, and now look at this.
Get on the ground! Get off of me! He's fucking choking me! He's choking me!
For what? For a mask? For not having a mask? So that's pathetic. She doesn't have a mask. Are you serious?
for not having a mask.
He just smiled and gave me a Jamaican sandwich. He said, I come from a land down under.
Media is being prevented from showing aerial pictures of the Melbourne protests and riots.
Media accreditation for what purpose? You don't expect our working environment.
The only reason that protests are illegal is because Daniel Andrews made it so.
I don't know what half of them are protesting against.
I'm all for medical freedom and I'm scared for my kids.
Well, a lot of them. Then, well, good on them. Except it's illegal.
Australia never forgets those scenes, and of course I left a few of them out. Let me introduce you to the three outstanding gentlemen that'll be running against Dan Andrews in his very seat. Ian Cook, thanks for being on the program today. Ian, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, and thank you for having me.
It's great having you. And of course, over there, the handsome Michael Piastrino. Michael, how are you?
Good, mate. How are you, buddy? Long time.
I'm in Melbourne next week. I've got to come and see you, mate. I need a good plate of pasta. And Aidan McClendon, thanks for being on the program.
Thanks for having me, Pat. Looking forward to the chat, mate. Hope we can get something productive out of it and get this man out of there.
Aidan, tell me, why are you running? What made you run? You've been in politics for a while. What made you run, and what are you going to bring to the table in Victoria?
Sure. I was an education officer in student wellbeing and health management, and I oversaw 80 schools from the Richmond down to Portsea. So there was 8 schools in the Mulgrave district, which I oversaw during those 2 years, or 267 days in lockdown. In the first lockdown, one of the schools I dealt with had 4 divorces, had to look after the health and wellbeing of 4 children just in the first lockdown. We had 7 of these. It got to the point in October when the mandates came in for teachers. My turning point for me was a teacher who was pregnant, who rang me late one night to say, look, I don't want to put these constituents in my body because I don't know what's going on. I'm in my 3rd trimester. My husband's just lost his job. He's in construction. The real estate came to my house, put it up for sale. So what I did is I sent out an email to all the principals, an urgent email saying there's a health and wellbeing plan here. Here's some resources. I sent it out to principals. Within 3 hours, the Melbourne Archdiocese of Catholic Schools shut my computer down. The next day, I got a 4-page letter saying that I willfully misrepresented the organisation, and it was at that point that I realised I've got to step back into the game. I had 20-plus years in politics. I realised that I couldn't stand back on the sideline. Look, it caused confusion and division in my own family. I saw what was happening in the communities, in the schools. I had one poor girl in grade 3 who was not wearing a mask. She was ordered to, she had high levels of asthma. She was ordered to sit behind at the back of the class near the door, and she lost all her friends in the playground because they all thought she had germs. Now, these are just very small microcosms of what was going on at mass level, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to roll my sleeves up, and I'm going to do what I've got to do. I'm going to help those parents and kids that I helped in Mulgrave in a different capacity, and here I am.
And folks, just that you all know, these 3 are standing against Dan Andrews in the seat of Mulgrave, so this man can be, well, I'd like to say decapitated if I can use that word. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to use that. But it's very important that this man, you know, we've got to cut the head off of this Goliath. Ian Cook, you've got an interesting story. Businessman, and all of a sudden, bang, lost your business, and now running as an independent. Can you share with us your story, Ian, and a little bit about what you represent and why you're running? I love the fact, your statement, this is about fighting corruption. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, no problem. So if you go back about 8 or 10 weeks, after we found that the Supreme Court, a registrar, took 4.5 months to make a decision that was going to put our court date off again. Now, that court date would have brought our matter up before the courts before this election. And I've had senior barristers just tell me the only reason this happened was political. I said to my wife, no more complaining, none of that. I have to stand and do something. So I did. I said, I am going to take the fight up to this guy, because at the end of the day, the corruption that destroyed our business cannot be allowed to destroy any other family business ever. This man is absolutely evil. The other thing too is Daniel Andrews does not represent Labor values. And that needs to be clearly understood. I'm not fighting against the traditional Labor voters who believe in helping the downtrodden and helping workers, etc. They are Australian values. They've been around for a long time, and the Labor Party has a proud history of defending them. This bloke is destroying the Labor Party. This bloke is going to actually annihilate it. If Labor voters don't realise the destructive nature of this man, which is purely about his own power, his own self-interest and his own wealth, then I fear for the state of Victoria. They all need to say, okay, enough's enough. I'm standing on the basis of families, small business, and anti-corruption. And the families one is very important.
Absolutely.
We need to talk about the families. Why? Because we are a Christian society based on Christian values. To have someone destroy that and destroy the rights of parents, to have this transgender legislation in there, that has to be obliterated.
Absolutely.
And it needs to be in the Parliament to stop it.
Just for our viewers, just so and Ian, I concur with you 150% if anyone can. Dan Andrews is trying to pass legislation that a child can go through a medical procedure for gender reassignment without parental permission, as long as the child with a teacher, watch this, is seen to be a mature minor. How corrupt is that, Ian? How evil is that? How godless is that?
Absolutely, I agree with you. But by the way, we're talking, this legislation, they're talking about children from the age of 6. This is disgusting, right? I'm a father. I know what my kids were like from 6 to 12 through puberty, etc. Their minds change, things change. The peer group talks about this, talks about that. This is absolutely wrong, and it has to be stopped and nipped in the bud now. It can't be allowed to continue. If it does, it will mean the destruction of the society as we know it. And that's not, I'm not being a conspiracy theorist or anything. This is what this is trying to do. And you know what? I grew up in a family that was basically a Labor family. All right? All my uncles, they were dyed-in-the-wool Labor voters all their lives. My father was a dyed-in-the-wool Labor voter, and then when he came across union corruption, etc., he tended to go across to the Conservative side. At the end of the day, the values of the rest of the family were not the values of this bloke.
Correct.
This is what has to be sheeted home. I understand people who say, but I can't vote Liberal. Well, then don't. Vote for an independent. Vote for someone who's going to stand up for your rights and your values, the real values of Australians.
Absolutely. And just, I'm going to introduce Michael Piestrino in a second. Michael, tell us a little bit about your story. Why are you running? I know during the lockdowns, you were pretty fired up, man. What caused you to stand up and say, I've had enough, I'm going to do something about it?
Thanks for having me, Pat. Basically, during the lockdowns, obviously I'm in the hair and beauty industry, and I saw many friends lose businesses, try to take their lives. I saw families torn apart because of the lockdowns which Daniel Andrews caused. And I remember it very clearly. It was a Sunday and I was making pizza at home with my kids, and my son looked at me and he said, "Dad, will you help the people of Victoria?" And in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm only one bloke. What can I do? But then I remembered, hang on, I do have a voice, I do have a heart, and I've got a lot of passion. So after contacting a few media outlets, I think I was on every channel from Channel 7, Channel 9, Sunrise, and all sorts to make sure Victoria reopened. And when we did reopen, it was like a school teacher said, hey, we could go out and play. And I said, it doesn't sit right with me. I believe that there's more to this. So when there was an opportunity that came up that I could actually took that opportunity, and I'm here to shake, rattle and roll Daniel Andrews' cage because he's an evil dictator. What he's done to family, he has not been held accountable. He tends to not recall. But guess what, Daniel? We can recall everything you have done. We will stand tall, chests out, and it is a battle for David and Goliath. And as Ian Cook said, I am fighting for families just like Ian. I'm fighting for every business from small, medium, large. I'm fighting for those families that have been torn apart. Because I tell you what, tonight at the dinner table, there is a mother who's not at that dinner table because, and I clearly have actually had enough. Oh, sorry.
Guys, interesting
guys.
thing for me. Sorry, Michael. I'm finding it hard to hear you. But what I found about this guy, Dan Andrews, he is obsessed with control. To me, again, I come from a Christian perspective, so give me a bit of license here on this one. You know, the good book says that there are many antichrists among you right now. I'm not saying this guy is the antichrist. He's not that smart. But he represents that spirit where he wants to control and dominate every single fabric of society. I'll give you an example. The other week, when that saga there with the Essendon Football Club, where a man on the basis of his faith for something that he didn't write gets fired as a chairman, and then Dan Andrews says, I'm a Catholic. Well, it seems to me like he's trying to redefine Catholicism, because last time I looked, the Catholic Church wasn't backing what Dan's backing. Certainly not in this whole issue with what's happening with children. Ian, what do you think about that sense of control that this man is obsessed with?
It's the ultimate in hypocrisy. Okay, yes, he's evil, and that's not just from me. That's from everything he has done. But the guy stands up and says this, and is happy to watch a man lose his income, lose his job, have a taint on his career, and yet the very church that Daniel Andrews belongs to, the Catholic Church, has the same values. So why isn't Daniel Andrews resigning, saying, you know what, because I belong to this church, I need to resign? Either that or excommunicate yourself from that church. Denounce your religion because your values don't align with it. And then
100%.
See what...
100%. Aidan, what's your take on what happened there in Victoria with
Sure.
the similar situation?
Well, I'll go one step further because I was raised in the Catholic tradition. I worked for Catholic schools for the last 7 years. I've seen it in Parliament. The top echelons of the Catholic Church are corrupt, full stop. That includes the Archbishop Peter Comoncelli, who saw 1,200 staff under his watch, as the 100% shareholder of Max. It's a new governance structure. I can't help but think they're working in cahoots. The top echelons of a lot of faiths need a massive clean out. They have been whining and dining with the politicians and their glorified socialites. As you referred to the good book, mate, these are just Pharisees on steroids. I've seen it firsthand. I've worked in the systems. These people need to be held to account. I've told them if they can't step up, step out. They can't put 50 cents each way and serve.
You know what? I think Aidan, it makes a good point.
Studio,
Can you hear me?
have I lost everybody there?
No, I'm here.
Can you hear me?
You're all there? Sorry, I don't know, but my earpiece is playing up. Now, Michael, you come from evangelical background, business. What did you feel in your heart and in your mind when that, mess happened down there with the Essendon Football Club? How did that make you feel? Born and raised in Victoria, conservative family.
It did upset me a lot, Pat. And the reason why is because I don't think anyone should be fired or leave their job due to their religion. Religion is an important part in our upbringing. And without faith, what do we have? Faith is so important. And it doesn't matter which religion you believe in, but I strongly suggest that Daniel Andrews stands down, because how can he say he's a Catholic, like you're saying, and then absolutely bash a man like he's just bashed that poor guy's religion? It's wrong. You cannot do that. You cannot do that, and he cannot get away with this. And the thing is, nothing sticks. They call him Teflon Dan for a reason. But I'll tell you what, between myself, Ian and Aidan, a lot of people call us the Three Musketeers, the Three Amigos. We're going to rattle and shake his cage like he's never had before.
That's the spirit.
To go.
That's the spirit. Now, guys, how incredible that now Victoria is the official sponsor of netball, as if you guys weren't in enough debt. What's the deal with that, Aidan? Tell me that's buying votes. If you're telling me, you know.
Oh no, it's worse than buying votes. It's actually rewiring the minds of our sports people. Because guess what? All those sports people are anti-coal. Mate, they're going to make it loud and clear that they're anti-coal so they can line up and put their cap out for $15 million. The problem is now they've set a shocking precedent. The sports teams can line up now, and if they agree with the government's woke agenda, the government will now open up the public purse. They will tell them what to wear, what to say, everything to do except with the game. I think it's a massive conflict of interest. It just shows you that he'll purchase votes. He's desperate. But unfortunately, the government will put their fingers in as many pies as they can to control the agenda. And this is yet another example that's just blown $15 million out the window to tell them, guess what? We're going to, if you are woke, we will open up the public purse. Simple as that.
Ian, this woke culture that he's propagating down there, and of course, you go woke, you go broke. I mean, $15 million on netball. As a businessman, taxpayer, what comes to your mind when you see that? And you know, politician now.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not a politician yet, by the way. If I'm lucky enough, I might end up one. Or if I'm unlucky enough, I might end up one. But at the end of the day, what you have is you've got a desperate man doing anything he can with, by the way, our money to try and shore up some votes. Just to give you I don't know whether you guys are aware, we have a huge, the largest 57, 60-seater coach that was vinyl wrapped for the electorate, which we drive around the electorate. They have 2 vans, the same done. So Daniel Andrews, by the way, today announced he's got his own bus now. So, he just did that. And you know what they say, the best form of flattery is when someone imitates you. So we went out and we did that. The point is, my question is, if it's okay to do this for netball, what about the Australian women's soccer team? What about the Australian women's cricket team? What about the Boomers, the basketball team? Do they have to then stand up and say, we believe in all of your transgender, taking the rights off parents legislation, and then you'll give us $15 million? In which case, I say to those teams, be very careful. You need to say no, because the destruction of the family unit via this government should be paramount. And in fact, the netballers should come out now and say no, right? If you have Christian values, family values, come out and say, we don't want your money, Daniel. And it's not his money, it's the taxpayer Victoria's money.
Absolutely. I want to do, before I bring you guys back on, I want to show you a photo. Dan Andrews the other week was talking about, he's concerned about people that, have committed suicide, transgender people. And again, that it's a tragedy when anyone does that. And believe you me, someone that has struggled with depression and anxiety, I know that feeling. But I want to show you a photo of a gentleman in Victoria who lost his life. Can my team put this photo up on the screen just so everyone can see? This gentleman, Stipe Lujovic, and I'm sorry if I don't pronounce his name right, committed suicide during the lockdowns. That breaks my heart. This is a father. This is a family man. This is a human being. Where was Dan's compassion for him? He didn't have any. Let me show you what Dan Andrews, this is a scene from the funeral that was held for this beautiful man, and my condolences to the family. We're fighting for you. I know you're suffering. But let me show you a video clip of Dan Andrews and his arrogance when it came to the 2-tiered state of Victoria, the unrooks economy and the rooks economy. Let's roll the tape.
A similar way to New South Wales, allowing freedoms for both vaccinated and non-vaccinated at a stage when the state is at a level of coverage that's high. Have we reconsidered doing that at all?
I understand the question now. In terms of the vaccinated economy, to tell you the truth, I'm not 100% clear on what New South Wales' position is, and that might be my fault rather than theirs. I can recall Gladys making some announcements about maybe 5 or 6 weeks after the vaccinated economy started, you would fold it up and it wouldn't be there anymore. I don't know whether Dominic has done the same thing. I honestly don't know the answer to that. That doesn't make any sense to me in any event, and we won't be doing that here. Like, why would you just get the system going? Why would you have the thing up and running and then essentially pull down that, pull all that down, pull all the architecture that you built, all the infrastructure that you built, the culture that you've changed? Why would you change that 4 or 5 weeks later? We will not be doing that here. I'm not going to say to someone, oh, look, just wait us out, will you? Just wait 4 or 5 weeks, and then you'll be able to go to the pub. No, if you make the judgment to not get and you reckon you can wait out us or the publican or whoever you want to think you're waiting out, you won't wait out the virus, because the virus will be here for a long time, and your only protection against it is being vaccinated. This will be well into 2022, well and truly into 2022. Then we're going to get into booster issue, so it won't be your first and second dose. It'll be have you had your third, and then the other issue will be, well, who knows what variant's coming? Who knows? Like, we don't. So we've got every reason to be confident. We've got every reason to be optimistic and upbeat. This is, the Victorians have done an amazing job, but that job includes us making some difficult decisions, and that's to keep people who are not vaccinated out of some of those venues that we've been talking about today.
How long do you foresee us?
I can't put a date on it. I cannot put a date on it, but I can tell you this: it will not be when we reach 90%. It will not be, anytime soon. That's going to function for a period of time, well into 2022.
There's been reports that there's been dozens.
For instance, I'll give you an example. The Grand Prix is in April. I don't think there's going to be crowds at the Grand Prix made up of people who have not been double dosed. Just to give you a time frame.
When I look at that video, firstly, the arrogance of this man is unbelievable. The other thing about it, everything he says is supposedly backed by science, which now we find out it wasn't. We now find out through the papers that have just come, studies that have happened, that everything that he's saying that comes out of this liar's lips, because that's what he's doing, was inhumane, unnecessary, overreach, recent study. And by the way, the big pharma have finally admitted that they didn't test it to stop transmission. Michael, when you see that video, how do you feel when you see, and I want to ask all of you, how you feel when you watch that video again? What stirs up in your heart and in your spirit, Michael?
Mate, it brings a lot of emotions to me. I mean, we've touched base on businesses, we've touched base on a lot of things, but, I had some friends of mine, grown men who were in hospital who tried to take their lives because of what he did. The economy, I'm in business, I'm in small business, as many people know, and I see police signs everywhere because of what he's done. And what hurts the people the most is he's not taking accountability of his stuff-ups. He sweeps it under the carpet. If he came out as a leader and said, you know what, I stuffed up, I shouldn't have locked down, he'd have more respect from the people. But he has a smirk, he doesn't care, he gives our money away. Now, look, I'm all for sports, don't get me wrong. I'm heavily involved in the boxing industry. I love sport. But Netball Australia, how dare they take that $15 million? They should be saying to us, you know what, we've seen the fire unions. They need new fire trucks. Don't worry about it. Take that $15 million back. We don't need it. All the hospitals, all the health system's going to crash. There's so many hospitals that need repairing. There's so many schools that I've gone to in the Mulgrave district that Daniel Andrews has neglected. We've just promised $6 million to Mulgrave Primary School, right? As soon as I did that, Daniel ran there and offered $6.6 million. Well, guess what? I'm staying at $6 million for the principle. I have integrity for myself. It's not a bid anymore. It's about giving back to those kids. And I will keep on fighting continuously to make sure that Victoria is brought back to the place it was before, a beautiful place to live. And I believe with myself, Ian, and Aidan, we can do this.
Absolutely. Ian, how do you feel when you see that video? I mean, my blood boils and I just see, man, the arrogance of the man.
Yeah, no, to be honest, it makes me sick. I mean, I look at this guy and I think he's so disingenuous. But everything that he says is just, look at me. I'll make an excuse. I'll try and get you to think about this or that, and direct you in another direction. It's the ultimate manipulator. It has nothing to do with helping Victoria, etc. He's just manipulating the situation for his own political and power base. That's the end of it. And I can't. God, there are some days when you just sit there and you re-watch this and you re-watch what the police did, like you showed us in the beginning, and you say to yourself, but where do we live? Are we living in the Middle East, Beirut? Are we living in another country? How can this guy stand there and lie and people just, well, you know what? Some people accept it. I don't think a lot of others are. The last point I'd make about this is his lockdowns, what he did. The evidence is now coming out, and this is particularly for girls between the age of about 15 to 25. They are pretty much far more social than boys, so they need their peer group, and he restricted them from their peer group for so long, that we're now going to see a period of time where you have the equivalent of PSD, what they call it, post-traumatic stress syndrome, for young girls because they were locked out. They've disengaged from their sporting associations. They've disengaged from their youth associations. They've spent so much time on iPods and iPads, that's become their friend. We need to make sure that the resources now are placed into those areas to make sure that they are okay. Otherwise, we are going to have a serious problem in a few years' time.
Well, guys, I'm going to go around in a second to all of the panelists, and can we give them a big thank you here? And I know they'll want to see it on the chat. I've got some great news. Victoria, I'm coming to Victoria, live in Victoria on Tuesday, and we're going to have a special financial one-day event in Victoria, live in person. Haven't been there in a long time. Then on Thursday, we're going to be in Sydney. And then, of course, the following week we'll be in Brisbane. So, Melbourne, we're coming there. Dan, I'm warning you, I'm coming to Victoria. And you can register. It's a free event at Masiti.com live, Masiti.com live. That's next Tuesday in Victoria. I believe it's at the Sheraton. And then on Thursday, we'll be in Sydney. So come on, everyone in Sydney, come out. It's free. It doesn't get much better than free. And then the following week, we'll be in Brisbane. All right, I'm going to turn over to our panelists. Gentlemen, final word. Aidan, how can we help you? How can we help you? What do you guys need? Actually, tell us what you need, and I'm going to give you all the final say. Aidan, over to you first.
Mate, I was raised as a man of faith, so I'll take prayers over preferences any day. Also, look, there's no secret the mainstream media have completely suffocated us. We have a movement of 120,000 people on a social media base, which has been growing. We're the fastest political growing movement in Victoria. Of course, at every step of the way, whether it's a Facebook live feed outside of Dan's office, which we're doing for 40 days in a row at midday, we call it High Noon at Noble. We are doing everything we can. It's guerrilla warfare now. It's word of mouth. In the Australiana way, it's called Bush Telegraph. We're just asking people, we are here to protect jobs, homes and families. We have a 10-point plan of awesome policies. I've seen it on the front line, the education system and what's happened. We're just saying, you know what? Go to freedomparty.net.au to see what we're on about. That's freedomparty.net.au. Spread the word. We can do this. I'm very, very proud to stand alongside Ian and Michael, knowing that we're all in here for the same objective. And I could care less who wins at the end of the day, so long as it's not Daniel Michael Andrews.
Ian Cook.
Okay, I'm going to keep my message very simple. I would, with your help, let us appeal to traditional Labor voters and say, we respect your right to be Labor voters. Please, for the sake of Victoria, do not be Daniel Andrews voters.
Powerful. Well said. Michael, I'll give you the last words.
Thanks, mate.
Since you're a family friend.
Thanks, mate. Look, you know, as Aidan said, I always put prayers before anything else. But look, as much support, I mean, I came to this campaign as no one's ever gone against Daniel Andrews before. In like the 20 years, he's never been de-seated. So my electorate was, obviously quite small. We're building it up, which we have. We've got a strong team behind us. But please jump on michaelpiestrino.com.au. You can donate. It'll be great. All money will go to signage and promoting us to get Daniel out. Or jump on Instagram, Michael Piestrino, at us. And, let's just get Dan out. And I believe, honestly, with faith and prayers, myself, Ian and Aidan, we're going to smash Daniel Andrews out.
And, folks, what I love about these three guys, they're working together. What I also love about them, they don't have egos. Third thing I love about them is they're standing together and they can... I've never seen the camaraderie as I've seen from these guys, with one end in mind, getting rid of this awful man. Here's what I believe we can do. Number one, we can pray. I'm telling you, we need to pray like never before. And I'll tell you what, prayer can unseat any dictator. Prayer. Number two, get behind these guys and support them. Send in donations if you need to. Come on, send them some help. These guys aren't flush like that bloke is. I'm telling you, they need your support. Number three, get out there if you can and hand out leaflets, put out brochures, get out there on polling day, voting day, and help these guys out. We can make a difference. I believe we can see Dan Andrews unseated in that seat. Now, let me just say this. Many of you say, Pat, I'm in Queensland, I'm from here. You know what? It doesn't stop you from getting on a plane and getting out there helping these guys out. Let me just say this. What happens in Victoria is going to affect us nationally. We don't want this guy going to Canberra. We don't want him in politics at all. He's got to go. And the way we do this, if you're in Victoria, you need to get behind these three guys. If they can win this seat, he's done. I'm telling you, we need to get behind them. I want to thank you all for being part of today, guys. You got my support. If at any time I can help you between now and November 26th, just text me, inbox me. You're always welcome here on this platform. Thank you so much, and God bless you. And don't forget, guys, next week in Melbourne, Mercedes.com/live or something. They'll put it up there. Thank you, gentlemen, for being on the program today. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Pat.
Right. Good job, Pat. Well done.
Thanks,
Thank
Pat.
you. God bless you guys. Thank you. See you next week. Live on the road, guys. Melbourne on Tuesday, Sydney on Thursday, and Brisbane the following Tuesday. God bless you. And hey, listen, one last thing. We need your help. We've been shadow banned on some platforms and been banned on all other platforms. And, we need your help. I'll put a link here in the chat later. We can go across to all our other platforms. We're on Rumble and so many others. Get behind them. And on Sunday morning, I've got a very, very special message on Sunday morning called The Midnight Cry, a powerful message on what's happening in our time. You don't want to miss that on Sunday morning. Set your clock, 8 a.m. in Brisbane and 9 o'clock everywhere else. And also, guys, follow us on all the various platforms. We need your support. We're doing this because we want to win our nation back. And I want to thank Ben Alcott and James over there at Damn Good Productions, constantly helping us put these things. They run so seamless. Big shout out to the boys there. So we'll see you next week. Melbourne and Sydney. Following week, Brisbane. We look forward to seeing you there. Oh, wait, this one. I'm so sorry. It's old age. And then later in the month, we've postponed our Gold Coast Awakening rally. But at the end of the month, we're going to Hervey Bay. If you live in that area, can you get word out there, guys? Get word out there. We need your support at these rallies in Hervey Bay. I look forward to seeing you there. Hey, next week's going to be great. Melbourne, can't wait to get there. I can't wait to get to Melbourne. It's going to be so powerful. All right, everyone. God bless you and thank you. Please share this message to as many people as you can. It's vital. It is absolutely vital. Share it with every Victorian you know, or maybe people that know someone in Victoria. Share this message. Don't just like and listen. Thank you. God bless you. Look forward to seeing you later on.